Okay, so we're welcome to the edition of the Edge Live webinar for the month of November. And this edition promises to be very interesting as previous editions in the past. So the Edge Live is a monthly webinar where we have business professionals, experts coming to discuss various business management topics from HR to accounting to payroll and other topics that we need to talk about as regards business management. And this month we have a professional who will be speaking to us a very interesting topic, how to solve payroll challenges. So before we get into the discussion, just a bit of housekeeping rules. So this is how it's going to go down again. We would have our speaker come on and introduce herself and then dive into her presentation. And after that, we have the opportunity to ask questions, do a question and answer thing. And all your questions you prepared are the ones that you will be asking based on our presentation. You have the opportunity to do all of that here and get live answers. And if you cannot take all questions as time permits us, you can still email these questions and or put them in the chat box. I'll note them and send a response to you by email. And for your questions, if you want to have maybe a one-on-one conversation, you can just notify your hand. I will mute you, or you just type in your question in the chat box, and our speaker will see it or read it out, and she's going to give answers to it. So we use the opportunity now to invite our speaker for this month's personal Temitope additional. So please go ahead, introduce yourself, and then dive right into your topic.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Temitope additional. I'm a young lady, very, very young lady. Yeah, so I'm the Chief Operating Officer at TalentPeo Africa. I started working with TalentPeo Africa about 3 years ago, and it's been a very exciting journey, I can tell. And I started with my field in accounting, which is why I'm really happy about this topic that we are going to be speaking on, because I'm sure a lot of us know that payroll started with accounting people before bringing in the HR into it. So it's a very, very interesting one for me. And yes, that's pretty much all about myself. And so right about now, I'm going to be diving into my presentation. I hope we all enjoy my presentation. I hope we learned something today. And yes, so that's it. I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Okay, so today we'll be talking about solving payroll challenges. And I'm just going to be giving a brief overview of payroll. I wouldn't want us to go straight into solving the challenges without having an idea of what payroll is. And I'm hoping this is going to be very interactive. At some point, I'm going to stop and listen to what we think on payroll, ask some few questions and see what we've gotten so far. All right, so now, if we talk about payroll, what exactly do we understand by payroll? We know that at the end of the month, people expect to be paid. People expect to get a compensation for whatever amount for whatever work they've put in at the beginning of the month. Now, we say payroll is the total of all compensation a business must pay to its employees for a set period of time or on a given day. We are in Nigeria, and I'm sure a lot of us know that in Nigeria, companies don't follow the particular procedure. When we get into an agreement, when we go into a contract before going into a job, we see that a contract has the stipulated information for that business. But a lot of us have come to understand right now that when we go into that business, do employers actually follow what is inside that contract? Do employers do what exactly they say they want for an employee? Now, take for instance, in my employment contract, I say I'm going to be paying this employee on the 25th of every month. I can bet it with us that a lot of people don't follow that. I can bet it with us. So if we say 25th, now if you look at this definition I gave, I said payroll is the total of all compensation a business must pay to its employees for a set period of time on a given day. Now, the set period of time, are you saying monthly or weekly? Now, given dates, Are you putting a date to it? For a business, for an organization, are you putting a date to it? So if we say the date that I'm going to pay this person is going to be 25th, let it be 25th. Now it starts with preparing a list of employees to be paid and ends with recording those expenses. I'm sure a lot of us know that is an organization. I am not just working by myself. There are other people in this company that has to work and has to be paid. So a list of employees. If we're talking about payroll, we're generating a list. We are generating how many people are in this company, how many people are working for us, how many people are going to be paid so amount. I want us to know that one thing is there are employees and there are contractors. I don't know if a lot of us know that employees and contractors, and all these employees payment vary from contractors payment. So if you are defining a list, let your list be precise. You know, you have your employees list and you have your contractor list. So, and it says we're recording those expenses. There are various expenses. In the middle of my presentation, we'll be going to various expenses that are going to be paid through to an employee and those that are being reimbursable and all. Payroll processing is one of the most crucial yet complicated business processes. I can tell you that for sure. I said earlier at the beginning of this, while I was introducing myself, that I studied accounting in school. I can tell you that as an accountant and as somebody that ended up going into HR profession, it's not easy. It's not easy because there are rules that come up day by day. There are laws that come up day by day, and you have to keep getting informed, keep getting informed. Every business tries to carry out the operation in the most efficient way. Nobody wants to pay the government extra money. Everybody wants to be very compliant. And that is why at the end of the day, we all have a common goal. And what is that common goal? The common goal is to carry out this operation in the most efficient way, stress-free. Nobody likes stress, so stress-free. Now, errors while processing and executing salaries might take a toll on employees' morale and hamper their productivity. I'm going to give an instance now. As an employee, I have worked myself out this month. I have done a lot. I have even given my best to the company. And you come to tell me that on the 25th of the month, I'm not being paid. 25th is not the statutory date. So I'm using 25th as my example right now. You tell me that on the 25th of this month, oh, our clients have not paid, therefore we shall not pay you early enough. What do you think that does to me? Do you think I am I'm able to say, okay, I want to continue working for these people the way I have given my best last month? Do you think my mental capacity will want to keep going the way it was? It's going to take a toll on me. Now, I'm going to be going to the steps in executing payroll. Just a quick one in the chat box. I would like us to answer these few questions. What do you understand when we say onboarding employees? I'm sure a lot of us have gone through the employee process. And what do you think we understand by onboarding employees? Sorry to the BizEdge person. Please, can you help me with comments if there are any?
Yeah, of course. If there are any comments, I would. Yes.
All right, thank you. So I don't know if any of us understand what we mean by onboarding employees. Okay. So I'm just going to go straight to it. Now, the process at which we get our contracts and we are stepping into a company, what do you think the HR does first? They onboard you. I don't know if you're getting that. They onboard you. So now, if you see what I stated here, I said, as the first step of payroll processing, businesses should onboard employees and prepare a list of employees to be paid. Now, I'm onboarding you. I am bringing you into my company. There's something that must be done. A contract must be issued. And as employees, when a contract is being issued, what do? We go through it. Be sure that they meet our expectations. Now, I want us to note something. When it comes to payroll, when it comes to our pay, then let me say payroll, when it comes to our pay, as an individual. A lot of us always, we do not ask this question when we get onboarded. Are you giving me this payment as my net pay or as my gross pay? It is very, very important. As an employer now, it's very important to state what you are going to be paying your employees. Are you going to be paying them gross of 250,000 naira? Or you're going to be paying them net of 250,000. Now, what is the difference between gross and net? Now, gross is your total pay before any deduction. And your net now is your total pay after deduction. So your net basically is your take-home payment. Your net is your take-home payment. And that is what a lot of us at the end of the day get to spend. People don't understand this. Some people, after they have gotten their contract, they've worked for the month, I end up paying them 200,000 when the agreement was 250,000. They look at you and say, this is not what I was told. This is not what I was told. Did you ask at the beginning of your contract when you're being onboarded, is this going to be my gross pay or my net pay? So it's important for us to always know that. So when you onboard employees, you give them the payroll, their payslip. Let them know that this is what your payslip is going to look like. It is very important. A lot of us never give employees that payslip when it comes in. So I want us to adopt. We are here to learn today. We are here to discuss and make sure that our business progresses. Nobody wants to be drawn back. Nobody wants to be laid back. So if you are not adopting the steps of giving an employee payslip when you are employing them, please let us have that in mind. Always give your employees payslip at the beginning of the contract period. Let them know that this is what they should expect. Now, also, it is important to know that you should let them know you are going to be paying taxes, you are going to be paying pension. These are the kind of things that causes challenges at the end of the period, because now you have not told them that this is what you'll be paying out of your salary. And a lot of them they're expectant to get something else. They're expectant to get something else. They don't know that this is what they will be paid out. So it is important to state this thing. The next step is to define your payroll policy. Now, when we talk about defining payroll policy, I have a very big issue with defining payroll policy, because I know that a lot of companies don't follow payroll policy. A lot of companies don't follow payroll policy. I get that there are small organizations, there are medium firm organizations, and there are large firm organizations who are doing well for themselves. Now, those large firms already have a structure in place. As a small business, as a business that is growing rapidly, do you have a structure in place? Do you have a structure in place? I don't know if you have employers in here, but I want you to ask yourself that question. As an employer, do I have a structure for my employees to follow? Now, that structure is our payroll policy. It is very essential for businesses to define their policies and get them approved by the management to ensure standard payroll execution. You cannot have a smooth payroll. You cannot have a smooth payroll if you don't have a policy in place. Now, when I talk about policy in place, when employees go on leave, what is it? What do you tell them? How many leaves are they entitled to? How many leaves are they entitled to? There are different kinds of leaves which I'm going to state during the course of this presentation. What are they entitled to during their stay in this organization? So always define all these policies. Now, the next one says, gather employee inputs that are important for payroll processing. As an HR personnel, I can tell you that gathering employee inputs can be very, very frustrating. And as an accounting personnel, I can tell you that when you get payroll employee inputs from HR and you're trying to make salary payments and it's bouncing back, you are frustrated too. So this one goes to the employees here. Always give valid inputs to your HR, to your finance team, whoever is going to be the one issuing this payroll processing. So now, what are the employee inputs that are meant to be collected? A lot of us have tax ID numbers. We have various states in Nigeria, and some of us are even remote workers. Now, COVID has brought remote into this system. COVID has brought hybrid system into this, and you cannot be calling somebody in UK when you're in Nigeria to be asking for all these details, because it might be frustrating. Okay, let me not even use UK. Let me use Canada that has the very huge time difference. You cannot be calling them every month that when I want to pay salaries, confirm your account number. No. And that is where I will go back to the onboarding of employees. That is where whenever an employee is coming in, always have a template. Always have a template. Let them fill in all their necessary informations. Let them fill in their necessary information. Let them state it. We have various payments in Nigeria, NSITF and the rest, the likes. Let them have all this information. If you are not sure of it, let your employer know, I am not sure of my number. Now, there are various ways to confirm this number, which leads me to my next step, validate employee input. I'm going to give an instance. There was a time I paid somebody's taxes and it was wrong. I've made the payment. The government will not bounce that payment back, which makes the HR people and the finance team very, very stressed out, because now you're leaving them to be looking for what is not lost. You're leaving them to keep going round and around the bush, trying to sort out payments that should have been done smoothly in the first place. If your tax number is TIN 22222345 and you're giving them 21222345, it's an issue. And that is why we as employees, we should be familiar with regulations. I'm going to give an instance. In Abuja, you have the TIN number as an FCT number, a very long one that can be used on remitter. And recently they started using the JTB. Some people do not know that the JTB is involved now. Some people do not know that their numbers have been changed. And we understand the kind of government we have. Not a lot of things will be reflected. I'm going to use the tax as an example. If my tax number is changed today, even Lagos did that recently. A lot of people's tax number got changed and they didn't know about it. So now, as an HR personnel, what do you do in that instance? It is very important for you as an organization to have a point of contact at every authority, at every stage of authority. Now, if I have a contact person in Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, is there somebody that can validate this input for me? All these things I'm talking about are the challenges we face. Is there somebody that can validate this input for me so that I don't end up doing wrong? Yes. So next, calculate payroll in this stage. Remember, I said at the beginning that you should always give pay slips. Now, what I'm saying when I say calculate payroll now is different. You already know your normal pay slip that you will be paying to employees as an employer. Remember that at the end of the day, some people might not come to the office at the right time and there are sanctions. Some people might go on leave, while some might have extra payments, bonuses and all. So at this point in time, you decide to calculate. As an employer, do you have a particular date where you say, this is my payroll cutoff date? It is very important for you to have a payroll cutoff date. This payroll cutoff date will make sure you have a very seamless payroll flow. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. A very seamless payroll flow. So you know that if on the 22nd of November, any input comes in from whatever department, I am not going to touch this input until the next month. If you decide to touch it and it affects your pay dates, you are not giving your employees that confirmation that you are actually following what is in the policy or what is in their contract. And remember that you must always follow what is in the policy and what is in the contract. Our next step is disbursing employee salaries. This is very seamless. Disburse their salaries. Once you have their information, it is very easy to do. Now, pay statutory dues as a when due. Pay statutory dues as a when due. Just a quick question. Just a quick question. I don't know if anybody can answer me there. Do you know, as an employer or as an employee, when is tax payment due? The internal revenue tax payment, when is it due? Just in 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Is there anybody that knows that? When is tax payment due? A quick one, quick one. If there's anybody. Okay, 10th of every month. Thank you. Thank you, BizEdge. 10th of every month. So we know that after the 10th of every month, you are late. As an employer, what do? You have validated your employees. You have validated your employee information. You have validated everything. So why are you waiting till 11th of the month to pay? I can tell you that it's only instances where there are issues, and which is why we have to avoid all these challenges. We have to avoid all these challenges by giving positive policies, by making sure that everything is set. It is very important for a company to have good structure. It is very important for a company to have good structure. So when the structure is in place, you know that you are not missing anything. So between the 1st to 10th of the month, I want you to tell yourself as an employer, I want to actually pay this. I want to actually pay that. There are days that these payments are due. So as an employer, it is important for us to note all these dates. Now, at the end, after paying all these dues, I will say distribute payslip again. But I want to say something. There are times that employees have issues regarding their payslip. What do we do in that instance? What do we do in that instance? For my company, as an example, TalentPeo Africa, if you are a kind of company that you outsource, your work is an outsourcing company, you do the employer of record, you do the payroll business, I always advise, send payslip to employees immediately after your payroll cutoff date. Send it to them. Let them tell you that, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong. You're outsourcing, you're an outsourcing company. You cannot see what the client has done to them from that end. You are just like the middleman in this case. You are the middleman between the client and the employee. So it is important for you as an outsourcing company to always send payslips earlier, so that by the time everything is done, you can now redistribute that payslip at the end of the day. You know that you are correct with whatever you've done, or you are wrong and there is room for changes. So moving on, the payroll system in Nigeria. I'm going to, I've spoken about this earlier, but I'm going to just briefly talk about it more. When we talk about the payroll system in Nigeria, when are we being paid? Some people pay monthly, some people pay bi-weekly, some people pay weekly. Now, I earlier stated that we have employees and we have contractors. A lot of employees are being paid monthly. Let's be factual. Most people want to collect their money monthly. In the UK, you can see a weekly payment, a daily payment. We have daily rates. We have in Canada, you can also see that there are rates. But in Nigeria, a lot of our organizations do not have these daily rates. What do we have? We have a fixed monthly payroll system, a fixed monthly pay system. So when is your payroll cycle? As an organization, define your payroll cycle. Is it monthly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it weekly you want to be paid? Now, we have various currencies that are being paid in. And a lot of people always make this mistake. An example I'm going to give right now is recently we had a case of an employee stating that he was not going to accept his payslip. Why? Because in the employee's head, he wanted some things to be done the way it is, the way he wants it to be done. An example, you are being paid in USD. According to the law, there is CBN, which is our official central bank rates in Nigeria. The CBN rate is what is used to calculate those that are being paid in foreign currencies. Those that are being paid in foreign currencies. So at the beginning of the month, For those that are being paid in foreign currency, let them know that this is the rate that is going to be used. If you go to the tax office, they will tell you that as at January 1st, you use the rate as at January 1st for people that are onboarded as at January 1st. Now, if the rate is a very significant rate, like let's say in January it was 300 and by March it's 600, it is very important for you as an employer to go back to the tax officials to get these rates, because that one alone is a challenge. That alone is a challenge. Because now you have given your employee using the rate of 300 because 300 was at the beginning of the year. By the time you want to reconcile and do your tax report at the end of the year, you see that you have a deficit to pay the tax officials. Why? Because you did not put your rates into consideration. So before, while you are doing your payroll cycle, whatever it will be, your monthly, your bi-weekly, your weekly, for those that are being paid in foreign currencies, it is important to note all this. Now, we have the standard working hours in Nigeria for 8 hours daily, which ends up at 40 hours weekly, because yes, we have 5 days in a week. 5 times 8 will give us 40. Now, a challenge that people always have is, what kind of policy do you have when it comes to your employee attendance system? If you know that employees are going to be sanctioned for coming late, if you know that they are going to be sanctioned for coming late, let them know early enough that at the end of this month, you have worked 20 hours and you'll be paid on that 20 hours. So it is important for us to know the standard and know how many hours our employees have worked that month, which leads me to overtime. There's actually no statutory law for overtime, but in Nigeria, a lot of us always, I'm using Nigeria as a context now because this is Nigeria, where a lot of us are in Nigeria, a lot of us are HR for Nigerian companies. Now, we have worked 8 to 5. People get to the office 8 o'clock. Is it 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 now? Then 9 to 5. So we get to the office and we are not done with our work by 5, or our manager is giving us extra work to finish up. And you're expecting that you'll be paid when your contract does not state otherwise. Please forget it. You will not be paid for that. And that is why at the end of the month, employees always tend to fight the employers, because why? They believe they have worked for this money. So it is very important that if you know that there will be overtime in while working, agree with your employer. As an employer, agree with your employee that these are the basis for overtime. These are the payments that will be made to you. Now, I talked about leave earlier. I said there are various types of leaves in Nigeria. Of recent, some people started paying paternity leave. Now, we know that the most common one, annual leave, sick leave, and maternity leave. Now, it's paid out yearly using your organization leave system. Some people like to carry over their leave. It's fine. It's fine to carry over your leave. But do you know that carrying over your leave at the next year now can stress you out? Because why? Sometimes the person that handled the last year will not document properly, and you that are a new employee that have come in to handle HR, you do not know what is going on. So I always advise that to avoid challenges when it comes to leave payments, always pay at the end of the year. Pay at the end of that annual year. Let people know that this is what it is. And if the employee insists on carrying it over, let a statement follow it. Let there be documentation for this leave. Now, going back to policy, what is your policy on leave, taking leave? How many days do you give out to this? How do you calculate your leave payments? As an organization, it is important for you to have all this, because if you don't, you end up facing the challenges of that. Now, taxes are always paid on on leave and some other things. Let your employees know that because you got this amount does not mean a tax will not be paid on it. So let them know that this is the tax amount, which brings me back to our payslip. document everything. If you are going to be paying leave allowance to this employee, at the end of this period, let the employee know that this is what will be paid out. This is what will be paid out. Let it be stated. Now we have public holidays, which is normal. State it in your contract. Will public holidays be paid for? Let them know. All these things are things that causes challenges when doing your payroll. Now, employment termination. We have policies. Everything goes back to policy. What is your policy on termination? Let everything be stated. So now, these are the various employee payroll contributions. We have pension of 8%. We have housing, National Housing Fund, which a lot of people default in. It is very important that you follow the statutory laws of Nigeria. Don't be caught at that, as an employer, don't be caught at that point where you have to start paying backwards. Don't be. If you know that you want to thrive in your business, let everything follow due diligence. Let it be orderly. Make sure that you are following the policies and the regulations, the laws of Nigeria. This is the tax table. I'm going to show us an example of that later. So employer payroll contribution, we have the pension contribution of 10%. Now, we have the National Social Insurance Trust Fund of 1%. A lot of companies always default in this also. At the end of the day, when your employees end up having this work accidents or damages, how do you compensate them for it? NSITF is meant to help you with that, but because you don't pay for it, it is at the end of the day, you end up paying more. So why not just start 1% and reduce whatever you pay later on? The ITF, Insurance Industrial Training Fund, is 1%. So now, moving fast to processing payroll manually, I'm going to go over these slides together because I have just about 7 more minutes to talk about my slides. Yes. So now I will classify payroll processing into 3 people. Now we have the small business, we have the medium-sized business, and we have the large business. Now, small businesses, I will classify small business between the rate of 2 to 50. 2 to 50. 2 to 50, you can process your payroll on Excel sheets. This is an example of an Excel sheet. I don't know if you can see my screen, but this is an example of an Excel sheet payroll process. So this shows you the basic housing transport. You can find them documents like this online. Basic housing and transport. It shows you the kind of allowances. So which is important when you're setting your policy. What are the allowances you are putting into a contract? So now, there are allowances that are tax allowable and there are allowances that are non-tax allowable. So always, it is very important for you to let your employees know that these are the tax allowable allowances and these are the non-taxable allowances. So which brings you remember I stated earlier that there is gross income and there is net income. So now all the total of your allowances brings you to your gross income. When you get to your gross income, you have your relief, and your relief is usually 20% times your earned income plus 200,000. So some of us here might not be HR professionals. Some of us here might be here to just know how payroll is done. It's fine. If you want to go back to see if your employers have actually been giving you, this is a sheet that you can use. I can be contacted later for a copy of this. So we have the pension. Your pension is your 8% of basic housing and transport. Remember earlier I said there's the employer contribution and the employee contribution. Now this is the employee contribution. You see all the details. When we talk about taxes, now we talk about the first 300. There's a way you calculate it and end up getting your payee at the end of the month. You end up getting your payee at the end of the month. Now, when you do all this, you know that this has a template already. This has a template at the end of the day. For you put in your template very well on Excel and put in a list of your employees. It calculates it for you using the formulas in Excel sheets, which brings me to this when I say processing payroll using Excel. Now, Doing payroll in Excel is best for businesses needing to pay 10 or fewer employees. You can do 50 with it, it's fine if you are sure that you can do that. If you are sure you can do that, you can do that. And operating in states without complex labor and tax laws. Nigeria doesn't have a complex labor law, it doesn't have a complex tax law, so it's fine to use your payroll in Excel. Now, since it's a completely manual approach to payroll, it does take time compared to other methods. Now, what are the other methods I'm talking about? We have payroll, automated payroll systems, which is why I said I'm dividing this payroll into 3, the small, medium, and large. So we have payroll systems that can be used. Using a template can help with time and efficiency because it contains pre-filled information like tax rates and overtime formulas, which is exactly what I showed you earlier. Always have a template. After inputting your employee information, you just need to enter the actual hours worked, which brings me to what I said earlier about actual hours. Let the employees know the actual hours they worked for so that it is easy. Just input all this into your template and it will go through. I've spoken about formulas earlier. Now, what are the common payroll challenges? I have spoken a lot about the payroll challenges within the course of this presentation. We have the manual processing with spreadsheets. I know I just spoke about Excel, but remember I said for small organizations, you can use Excel. If you are becoming a large organization and you think of using Excel, there are errors that could come true. So if you're a medium-sized and you know that Excel, you can try, but always ensure that your formulas are there. Now, remember that Excel will not update the formulas by itself. Excel will not, no, don't let me say formulas, will not update the laws by itself, which is why the second payroll challenge says statutory compliance and legislation issues. Excel will not update your legislations for you. Excel will not come and look at your sheet and say, this is compliant and this is not compliant. You are the one that knows what is compliant and what is not compliant. Then the next issue is privacy and confidentiality, which I also say that's at security. It is very, very important to note that confidentiality is something that we hold very strongly in HR profession. As an employer, it is for you to hold your employees' data in strong confidence. Let that privacy be there. Now, it's a challenge because people are not sure of how much you keep their data. They are not sure of where their data is reaching, and a lot of people don't want to share their information. Always have a confidentiality policy, a privacy policy in place. Challenges in attendance and leave management. I've spoken a lot about this. This is a challenge. Always note, it's very important, note the leave and attendance policies. Note every single thing that has to do with your attendance and leave. Let the employees be aware. And as the employer, let you be aware. If you have an organization where there are various levels of the organogram is from the employee to the line manager to the this to the that, let everybody be on the same page. Inconsistency in policy. At the beginning of this presentation, I spoke about employers being inconsistent. If you are going to be following a policy that states that employees will be paid on the 25th of this month, follow it to the end. If you are an employer and say that you don't want to pay this, you don't want to pay that, let it be stated explicitly. Let it be precise. Let it be concise. Let it be precise. Now, software non-compatibility issues. Going to the big firms, some softwares might not be compatible with your regulations. I know some of us want to use softwares. I know some of us would say, okay, we think this software will be good for us. Have you researched on this software before using them? Have you? Research on the software and know that this is important. Know that you are going in line with the rules and regulations of that particular country. For rural companies that do payroll for other employees, in other countries, there are global softwares that you could use. follow through, and always, as an HR person, always make sure you stay updated. In organizations, we have legal team. Let your legal team help you when it comes to staying updated. So work hand in hand with your finance team, work hand in hand with your legal team. Unproductive and outdated payroll system is almost similar to the software. It's similar to the software. Let's be sure that these payroll systems are not outdated. Be sure that they are up to date. Be sure that they are good to go. Managing personnel files, which goes back to what I stated earlier on the employees' inputs. Remember, I said validate employee inputs. So always manage your personnel files properly. Be sure to validate all these inputs that are being brought in. So how can payroll processes be improved? We've spoken about the challenges. I have also spoken about how they can be improved while talking. But now, create and maintain a monthly payroll schedule. If you know that this is how you want your payroll schedule to look, maintain it. Maintain it months in, months out. Don't come and say, this month I want to use Excel, this month I want to use software. Next month, I want to use another manual process by writing down. Create a template, maintain it. Now, classify your employees properly. I stated earlier that they are contractors and they are employees. Contractors, they only pay tax of 5%, or depending on the kind of contract they are giving. Now, know your employees. Are they contractors or are they normal employees? When are they going to be paid? So classify them properly. Stay up to date with employment law and regulatory changes. As the employment law changed, as the regulatory law changed, in Nigeria, at a point, the Finance Act changed. I'm sure a lot of us are still using the old Finance Act. Now, after this session, I want us to go back, look into your finance. What are you using as an HR personnel? What are you using as an organization? What Finance Act are you using now? Are you using the old one or are you using the new one? We are going into a new year now. It is very important for us to start this new year in a proper way. Follow the regulations. Create clear and simple payroll policies. Don't create something that will get complicated. Don't create something that at the end of the day, you don't understand. Conduct periodic audits. Periodic audit is something that I like personally, because at the end of the day, you are sure that you are correct with what you are doing or you are not correct. Instead of waiting to the end of the year, I'm going to give an instance. Last year, I paid some taxes for Kwara State, and at the end of the year, Kwara State had changed their laws. They had other payments that will be put in place. And when I went to do the what is it called now? Filing of annual returns, I had extra payments to make. If I had conducted periodic audits, this wouldn't be a lot on me. It wouldn't be a lot on me. So it is important to conduct periodic audits. As a large firm, invest in payroll software. As a small firm, if you know that there are going to be issues when conducting payroll, it is very important for you to invest in payroll software. Now, implement direct deposits. When I say implement direct deposits, we have softwares like QuickBook. Once you put in your information, it can help you make your direct payments for salaries, for your taxes. So you don't end up, there are times you want to pay an employee 50,000 and the next person you are paying is 75,000. It happens. Nobody's above mistake. It happens. And finally, outsource your payroll. If you know your organization does not have the necessary, the required capacity, when I say capacity now, the strength to do this, outsource it. There are various payroll companies that can take it. For instance, TalentPeo Africa, we do outsource. We are an outsourcing service. So there are various payroll companies that can help you with this. In conclusion, payroll can be very stressful and time-consuming. In the post-COVID world today, organizations have been seen to adopt so many strategies. Be sure not to adopt strategies that would harm you at the end of the day. It is important to note that in as much as policies tend to change an organization should adopt and stick to a policy. We cannot overemphasize that. Stick to a policy that can be worked with. If you need to outsource your payroll services, feel free to do so. It lessens the burden on your finance and HR department. And lastly, get an automated payroll system today. Thank you. I don't know if you have questions, if we have contributions to state, I'll be listening to us right now. Okay, no, so I was going to give show an example of a payslip. So this is an example of a payslip. I used USD here because this, let's say this is an employee paid in USD. This is an example. You can put your tax payable, your employee pension. This one can be given to the employee at the beginning of the period of time, at the beginning of his contract. Let him know that this is what will be paid. So it's a test page. The gross income is this, the tax payable is this, the employee pension is this. So calculate it according to the percentage that is done. At the end of the day, when you share this, if this person now says, oh, this is wrong, I have time to change and implement. So thank you very much. I'll just be.
Okay, thank you very much, Temitope. Please let's show some energy in the chat box, appreciation and all. Let's do that as we move to our Q&A session now. Thank you very much, Temitope. If we would call this a master class, I'll say it is like a mini master class. You've given us a tour of payroll.
Thank you.
And HR together, and how these two work hand in hand, because some organizations, they have HR and they also have payroll department, like they are distinct, and some are together since they are small. Yeah, so this is the time we take questions. So if you have any question, you can, if you want to ask them orally, verbally, you can just indicate with your hands up, and I'll try to unmute you from here, or you just type in your questions in the chat box and read it out to Temitope so she can give you live answers now. So you have the opportunity, everyone, to do that. So I'll be scrolling for questions here, if we have any. Before questions come in from our audience, we have some questions that we just reserved for you. One of them is, how can payroll training help a small business or a large business?
Oh, thank you for that question. Payroll training. Payroll training cannot be underemphasized. Payroll training is very important. Now, you come in as an HR personnel. Let me use, for instance, entry level. You come in as an entry level person and you believe that, oh, I know this, I know that. I told you at the beginning, I studied accounting in school, and this gave me an insight to what payroll is. When I moved into the HR field, I knew nothing. But what helped me? Payroll training. Now, this is where our companies come into place. Learning and development is something that should happen at every stage of your career. Let your company always assist in that. Now, if your company doesn't have a learning and development policy in place, don't wait for that. Always develop yourself. You, from attending payroll trainings, you tend to share insights with people from different places. And at the end of the day, end up getting knowledge for different things. And what does knowledge do? Knowledge never wastes. Knowledge will never waste. You have that opportunity of actually writing something down and knowing the right thing to do at the right time. Payroll trainings will help you know that at the end of every month, I should pay this. At the end of this, I should pay that. Now, payroll training, a lot of payroll training will show you the Excel side of things. It's the Excel side of things. A lot of payroll training would not show you that software part. So it is very important for you to know, if I'm going to go for a payroll training, do I want to go for the manually processed payroll training, or do I want to go for those that are software organized? There are different software companies that would help you in this instance. If you want to go for things that are software, that have softwares, so go for that. If you want to know both, it is important to know both. There are days that softwares might not go through. There are days that softwares might crash. So it is very important for you as an HR personnel, you know that, or as a payroll professional, you know that once I'm asked this, I can go to the tip of my fingers and provide it. So payroll training is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer. We can't overemphasize payroll training. The fact that one person is here today, another person might be taking up that position tomorrow, and he or she has to be in the know. Okay, another question we have is when it comes to standardizing turnover process, how does promoting internally help an organization?
Sorry, let me get that again. When it comes to
standardizing turnover process, how does
okay.
promoting internally help an organization, that is promoting within your workforce and not getting someone from outside to come to the job?
Okay, so it is very important to state that companies have budgets. Companies have budgets that they set at the beginning of the year. So, and that takes me back to training. If you are promoting your turnover and you don't want to have a very high spending, have you trained your payroll professionals or your HR members to know what they are meant to do? Now, we have different departments. We have the legal department, we have the payroll department, we have the finance. How up to date are they? If you want to minimize cost, you have to use cost to make cost. I would say that way. You have to use cost. You have to use money to get money. So if you're trying to reduce a cost, how are you benefiting those that are internal? You are promoting internal people to do something. Let them have the necessary resources instead of outsourcing. Do they have the necessary resources? Do they have that capacity? You can't have an organization of 100 people and one person is in charge of the payroll. Let there be somebody to assist. Even if there's nobody to assist, let there be a software in place. Let there be a software in place. So if you're going to be promoting internally, make sure the resources are there and make sure that they have the timeline, the timeline to do all those things, and they can help themselves. It will reduce the cost that you're going to be spending. And that's why I said at the beginning, always define your budgets. Define your budget at the beginning of the year. Now, defining your budget, you have to pay salaries to those payroll professionals that are internal. If your salary budget for the year is 300,000 for payroll professional, if you cannot employ a full-time person, there are part-time individuals that you can employ. They are part-time, they don't have to cost that much. If outsourcing is going to cost you $500 monthly and you are paying your employees lesser, it's fine. So that is why you should always define your budget and make sure that you stick within that budget. You are promoting your internal growth, but that way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Temitope, for that answer. So I think also reduces the learning curve or time to learn.
Yes,
bringing
it
someone
does.
forward. Great.
It does.
You mentioned the employer-employee thing or contractor-employee thing.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of what a transparency payroll policy should look like? Like what and what should be in that policy? A transparency policy.
Transparency policy. Now, going from the end of a contractor. In Nigeria, we have contractors work between a particular period. I can't really remember the number of days right now, but I don't know if anyone can help me in the comment section, but there's a number of days that you shouldn't go above as a contractor. If you go above that, you are becoming an employee. So now, if you're saying a transparent payroll policy, some people, because some organizations, because they want to reduce the amounts they spend, they end up classifying their employees as contractor. No. Let us classify. Now, under your policy, you have your number of days worked and everything. Let us have the number of days worked. Let us know that this is the working hours. Let us know, are there going to be overtime payments? Let us know, are there going to be leave payments? Some people are being paid leave payments, and at the end of the day, the tax on the leave will not be paid out. So let us know the policies that are put in place. Let us know as an organization. Now, it varies for different organizations. What TalentPeo does is different from what Workforce might do. When it comes, I'm just giving an instance. It's different from what Workforce might do when it comes to their policies. Different organizations have different policies. So always make sure that when you are giving a contract, there's a policy procedure that comes with it. And it is important for us to read. Nigerians, we don't read. We don't read. Honestly, we don't read. I have been looking for a job for 5 years and I finally get a job. You're not telling me to read. So it is very important for us to read all these policies. Let it be stated clear. If you have a friend that is in the legal team, let him help you read it. It helps you define your policy and your expectations. So at the end of the day, you are not expecting more than what is there. I don't know if I was able to answer your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, of course you did. You added really salient points there. So should be as clear and simple as possible, because again, you said we don't read. So if HR can make, or payroll officer can make the policy very simple, not too much ambiguous words and
exactly,
so
and that's why I stated earlier. Let it be very simple and precise, straight to the point. Don't come and beating around the bush. Nobody has time to be reading what is around the bush. Yeah,
thank you very much for that. Do we expect questions from the audience? If you have questions, please feel free to ask, because we would be rounding up in just very few minutes. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. So we still want to say a very big thank you to Temitope for this session.
Thank you.
This session is brought to you by BizEdge, and this is what we do every month to educate professionals and also the general public on best business practices. BizEdge is an all-in-one business management software where you can manage all your HR processes, to accounting, to payroll, vehicle management, inventory management, time and attendance. And there's also the self-service app, which is My Edge, where employees can see who is on leave, who is celebrating work anniversary, also can manage their resources, what's given to them to work. And we wanted to go check out our website, www.bizedgeapp.com, and we're also social on Instagram, LinkedIn, and as well as Twitter. And Temitope, I know you are very active on LinkedIn. So how can our folks reach you on?
Yes, I'm just going to be putting my details right now in the chat box. So you could reach me via email. You could also reach me on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you very much. I support that. So if you have questions to ask Temitope, I really hope she'll oblige you to give you a free consultation.
Sure.
Answer your questions. Okay, so this is where we'll draw the curtain program this evening. I will call it a day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Big thank you to all that joined in today's program. I believe we've all learned one or two. So HRs, as you're going back from our poll, I noticed that we have a lot of HRs here. As you're going back, please take the salient points that the Temitope has outlined and look for something that has ease of access and a lot of analytics for you to go through what mode you're using. Is it the Excel sheet or is it a software you're using? So you cross-check, look at this and see what is really working for you. So we hope to have you all again next month as we round up the webinar for the year. So till we see you again next month, we want to say bye-bye and take care.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.